It has now almost been 4 months since the release of Double Exposure, and I think it's time to start discussing what will be next for the Life is Strange series. With these theories, I'm trying to be realistic for what we can expect so neither you or I are disappointed, but I'll also be sharing partially what my hopes are we see. Let's start off with who will develop it. Developers Deck9 have already confirmed that they are working on the next game, and Max will be returning once again. With fans' opinions on Double Exposure being pretty split, it is possible Square Enix could hire a new development team for the next game due to a lot of mixed reviews from each entry by Deck9. Personally, I think they will be given one more chance to make a Life is Strange game, and if the next game is viewed as Double Exposure was, it would not be good for them. I think Deck9 is on very thin ice right now with the franchise, which really sucks for them because that's all they have. They've tried making games other than Life is Strange, but they've all fallen flat. This is not me hating on Deck9. I actually enjoy the games they make for the Life is Strange series, but I'm not oblivious enough to say that Dontnod's entries blow them out of the water and make Deck9's games feel hollow. As some of you know, I really enjoyed Double Exposure, and I think it was a major step up from True Colors, but I can say it did feel like some stuff was missing. Not even just the bland ending and none of your choices mattering that much, which was to be expected based on their previous game entries. The story was great. They had a really good idea with Max going up against the shapeshifter, but they did poorly in trying to wrap up the story. The reasonings for a lot of things that happened were pretty lackluster. The attention to detail in the recent Life is Strange games have been rather disappointing, especially comparing them to Dontnod's entries. People are still finding stuff to this day that were hidden in the first two Life is Strange games. And Deck9's have been pretty baseline. Their games are beautiful, and I think they do understand the Life is Strange theme in itself, but they are not the best at executing a fully detailed story. So I think Deck9 will be making the next game, but I do think it could be their last. If it is, hopefully it's not the end of the series. At this point, I would love to see how a new dev team handles Life is Strange, as long as they don't make it worse. My next topic is whether Chloe will return or not. I think we are 100% going to see Chloe again in the next game. I was always behind the theory that they wanted to make a game solely on Max and show her character outside of being attached to Chloe. It gives the chance for players to see Max in a new light. Plus, story-wise, it makes sense. Max and Chloe went through so much trauma together at such a young age and spent years side by side not giving each other the chance to fully heal. In Double Exposure, we got to see Max and how she's been doing 10 years after the events at Arcadia Bay. Then, in the next game, we could see them reunite after all this time, having experienced life without each other and having a fresh set of eyes on their past. The whole breaking up, spending time apart, and getting back together is such a cliche storyline, but it works. There were rumors a while back from a supposed ex-Deck9 employee saying how Square Enix hates Chloe as a character and made Deck9 remove her from the game. I really don't think this is true. One fact being that they gave Chloe her own game, an entire prequel in Before the Storm. Also, they did have a good bit of dialogue from Chloe in Double Exposure. I think if they hated her, they would not have given her her own game and continued her story in games that she's not even seen in. Now, I'm not sure if it's more so on the developer side or Square Enix who pushed for Max to return, but we've been begging for Max to come back for years. And whoever's decision it was, they listened. They do listen to fan feedback. They want to make as much money as possible, so of course they're going to bring Max back if it means double the sales of their last game. With all of the demand from the fans in this Double Exposure era to bring Chloe back, I think they're going to take that feedback and put her into the next game. Even if it's just for one episode or even a cutscene, I would be happy. They also teased Chloe coming back with one of the last lines in the game from Max in Double Exposure, and Moses is asking Max if she's ready to face Chloe. And Max responds, yes, not yet, but soon. With that being one of the last lines in the game, I think it's safe to say that was confirmation that we will see Chloe again in the next game. Further confirming it was the endgame scene saying Max will return. Max is coming back, and she is ready to face Chloe after all these years. Gonna pause real quick to say if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more theory videos. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, back to the video. Next, we're going to discuss who the main character will be. I think we have three options for who the main character will be. The one that's most likely and most obvious would be Max. But I could also see us playing as Sophie in her villain era. If they go the route of Diamond having powers, which I don't think she actually has powers, she could be the main character. I don't think we are likely to see a new character as the protagonist for this game. I think what's best for the series and sales would be to have Max as the main character again. She's a fan favorite and her name equals more sales, so it's the best move for them to make. Next up, we're going to discuss where the game can take place. This part I'm very excited for. I think Life is Strange 5 will partially, but not really more than like 50% of the game will take place in Caledon, which means most of the game will take place in a new location. Now, why do I think that? Well, at the end of Double Exposure, Max ultimately stays behind at Caledon while Sophie goes and searches for others with powers. There's two ways I could see this going. Sophie coming back with people who have powers, or Max going to find Sophie in a new location to stop her from what she's going to do. Caledon is already built by Deck 9, so they are going to save a lot of time with not having to start from scratch. And with the new location only being present in part of the game, it would not have to be this massive town. There is a need for there to be a new location in the game. We've already explored all of Caledon. Yes, they can change some things about it and add new areas to explore, but it feels like we need something more. Familiarity is nice on its own, but being we just recently explored Caledon, I think it's time for a change. Now, if we are chasing after Sophie, who's collecting people with powers, where's an obvious choice to go? Haven Springs. Maybe we are going to see Alex return and get to explore Haven Springs as Max. This theory is fun, but personally, I have no real interest in exploring Haven Springs again. Not to be harsh, it was beautiful, but it was kind of boring, in my opinion. And I love Alex, but I'm not exactly dying to see her again. Something I just thought of as I'm editing this video is if we do go back to Haven Springs, we could see Steph again. So maybe I am on board with going back to Haven Springs. Going back to the game taking place at Caledon for a second. One thing that would obviously change if we stay there is the season. And with Double Exposure taking place in winter, it would be a moderately drastic change to see the area in spring or summer. This is where I get a little delusional, but it would be so sick if it actually happened. What if part of the game we went back to Arcadia Bay? I think for Max, it is inevitable for her to return there. And if we get with Chloe again, they could go back to Arcadia Bay together after all of these years. Another theory for why we would return to Arcadia Bay is Sophie. What if Sophie is going to the source of where Max was when she realized she had powers? Maybe Sophie thinks there are others with powers there, which I believe there to be. And that's where we have to follow her to. We've never actually explored the same location in a Life is Strange game twice, other than Arcadia Bay when we had Before the Storm, but I don't really count that. So it would be cool for us to explore an area we've already been to before. So now moving on to what we can expect the story to be. It's clear we are going to continue the Max and Sophie story. I think the game will take place a few months and no more than a year after the events of Double Exposure. I could see the game starting off with Max having a casual conversation with possibly Moses or one of her other friends at Caledon, and she starts to have these visions of Sophie doing something wrong. I believe we could see Max trying to track Sophie down, or even Sophie returning to Caledon with people who have powers. One thing I still stand by is that Diamond does not have powers and is just a diversion to throw fans off for a plot twist. I could see scenes of Sophie trying to get Diamond and be able to use her quote-unquote powers and nothing is working. Sophie is going to go mad and putting Diamond in danger just because she had a nosebleed and assumed it meant she had powers, and that Max needs to rescue Diamond from being brainwashed by Sophie. Now, this is where we could see her return with Alex or maybe even Daniel, though Daniel would be hard to bring back with the amount of different endings in Life is Strange 2, so I don't think we will see him again. Alex would be much easier to bring back, but what would be really cool is to see a character from Max's past in Arcadia Bay returning, and surprise us with them having had powers all along. That would be an insane plot twist. Something I theorized about for double exposure is that Safi always had bad intentions. I believe she planned everything and knew about Max's powers, inviting her to Caledon to befriend her so she can have an in with one of the most powerful people in hopes they would work together. It's clear that Safi's intentions for turning evil were skimmed over, so I think there will be a more detailed explanation for her reasonings. I also believed she was behind the Max and Chloe breakup. Now, this does contradict my theory earlier about people needing time apart after a traumatic event, but hear me out. Max does also mention, when looking at the picture of her and Chloe, that she remembers the picture, but not the fight. Why wouldn't Max be able to remember the fight? Could Safi have been behind it and implanted these false memories into her and Chloe? Or maybe she even shapeshifted as Chloe or Max and fought with the other person. That would be mind blowing if it went back that far. I could see Max having nightmares where she's with Chloe, but Safi is always there in the background stalking them. I could see Safi's villain origin story coming from an obsession with Max or even her relationship with Chloe. It's clear Safi it can not only shapeshift but is also able to mind control. Kind of what we saw in episode 5 when she's losing her mind but she was controlling what everyone was doing slash feeling. I feel as though she might tap into this aspect of her power a bit more. And for Max's power, I think we might veer away from the alternate timeline aspect of her power. I can't really think of a good reason for them to use this as a main focus in the next game, unless Max time travels back in time and uses it to solve something. It's too soon for another murder mystery, so unless there's some major event happening, I can't see it being the main focus. I do see Max going back to being able to time travel like how she did in the original game. Max said she wasn't able to do it anymore, but then she was able to do it when she was hiding from Alderman. Maybe the developers will find a balance so that we can have both abilities with her powers. Similar to the nightmare scenes we saw Max going back to Blackwell, I think we are going to see more of Arcadia Bay in this game. Whether Max physically goes there, has a nightmare about it, or just has to time travel back there, we definitely have to see more of it. We will almost for sure have more nightmares, but maybe even returning characters in those nightmares, like Kate jumping off the roof, Jefferson in the dark room, Chloe asking Max to kill her in an alternate timeline. It's hard to say how the game will end, obviously, since we have no information on it, but I'm really holding out for an impactful ending. I'm hoping our choices make a bigger difference and the end game actually shows our consequences. One reason it's so hard to even think of what the end of Life is Strange 5 could be is due to the fact of we have no idea what Safi's motives are. Yes, Safi could come back in the next game with a team of people with superpowers, but really, why would she do that? What exactly does she want? World domination? Again, this was so unclear in Double Exposure why she was so mad at everyone. Yes, it was tragic her friend died and her mom lied about knowing about Lucas's book that he published, which was her friend's actual essay, but these do not seem like good enough reasons to overturn the world. There's a lot more to her story we need to know for it all to make sense. This is something that did make me a little angry while playing through Double Exposure. They gave us some reasonings for her becoming evil, but it really doesn't seem like a good enough reason to overturn the world, you know? There's a lot more to her story we need to know for it all to make sense. Lastly, I think it's pretty possible for us to get another bonus episode in the next game. Our last bonus episode was for Steph and True Colors. This time, I could see it being a few different things. One being of Chloe and where she was when Max was away after they separated, or even Max and Chloe together after the storm. Fans have been wanting to see Max and Chloe immediately after the storm, and if they bring Chloe back for the next game, this would be perfect. I could see us playing as Diamond to get more lore on her. I would also say it could be Safi too, but I think if the next game is going to be centered around Safi, we will need her lore throughout the main game and not as a prequel. However, maybe they will surprise us and give us a one-off episode, kind of how they did with Captain Spirit before the full game came out, to give us information on a new character we'll be seeing. Who knows? But I think it is time we get another bonus episode. So, it's time for closing thoughts. Maybe it's me being delusional, but I think we could see this game end with Max and Chloe together, but finding out they're on their own again. I could easily write a whole video essay on my delusional hopes for the next game, but for this, let's recap. I think Life is Strange 5 will be made by Neck 9. I think Max will be the main protagonist, and we won't just see her as we play as someone else. I think Chloe will definitely return. If she does not return in the next game, I think it's safe to say we will probably never see her again. Especially with Max's comment saying how she's almost ready to face Chloe at the end of Double Exposure. It wouldn't really make sense to tease her comeback like that and then just not give it to us. They had their time apart, it's time for them to reunite. Life is Strange 5 will partially take place in Caledon and with a new location or returning to an old location. We will see more returning characters other than Chloe. We will get more lore on Sophie's villain story and her powers will have evolved. Max will predominantly use time travel and not only switching timelines. We will return to Arcadia Bay at least in a nightmare if not in person. That's all I could think of for what we might see in the next Life is Strange game. I'm eager to see what they do and cannot wait to play as Max again. Let me know what you guys thought of my theories and if you have any of your own for what we could see in the next installment. And I will see you guys in the next video.